How many of you want to be great? If you want to be great, you must learn how to make better choices. This rule carries over into prison culture. My father, an ex-U.S. Army sergeant in the Korean War, said something to me as he and my mother were dropping me off for freshman year in college. He said, "Karl, you know what you have to do here in college?" I said sarcastically, "Yeah, make the dean's list." He said, "No, you got to survive." My father never played chance games. No poker or lottery games for him. Only the sheer will to work and survive. His words still ring true in me today. Survival theology is a centered prayer method, and this podcast is an extended discussion about what my father said to me. Being church behind prison walls is about winning the game of life in practical, holistic ways. I survived the academic and social challenge of college, grad school, and my doctoral program, but my experience as Protestant chaplain at the Clinton Maximum Security Prison in Dannemora, New York, was another combat tour of duty that sharpened my father's words on that hot August day in Atlanta, Georgia. War is horror, and the American prison experience is war on the souls of inmates, because America is a country that espouses so much but delivers so little. And many times the persons who gets thrown in jail or prison is there because she or he had no money. The rich get richer and the poor get prisons. Clinton Prison is nestled in the foothills of the Adirondack Mountains in upstate New York, an hour from Montreal, Canada. Admittedly, writing about prison survival is controversial, but this podcast and this book is an offshoot of my doctoral dissertation titled Teaching Center Prayer to Incarcerated African American Men in Small Groups. I wrote Being Church Behind Prison Walls, Survival Theology, Prisoners, and Public Policy because I wanted to educate, enlighten, and offer alternative views about doing prison ministry. I want to start a fresher conversation with church and inmates. The core focus of this podcast and book is really about intercessory prayer. Prayer is a controversial subject. Prayer is the personal door only you can open. It provides people of an inmate community a practical guide to enlightenment, a possible winning hand, even in prison culture. I saw elements of this seedling of church every day when I was a prison chaplain. Muslims, Shiites, Sunnis, 5%ers, Christians, Methodists, Episcopalians, Pentecostals, Jews, and Rastafarians. I was a participant to this kind of intercultural matrix of cross-pollinated spirituality. Here in the closed, cloistered, violent, and noisy prison community, I began to reflect on a newer path to both prison and church ministry renewal. No survival or revival services, no collection plates or mass choirs, only prisoners carrying on traditions of their ancestors. Prison walls cannot keep these traditions underground. Prisoners, both men and women, struggle daily and constantly with issues of identity and abandonment. I signed up for the specialized ministry. I had to ask myself the question, what does it mean to follow Jesus into this dark and lonely place? What does it mean to religious volunteers who want to do prison ministry in this environment alongside convicted and violent criminals? Theologian and former prison chaplain Karl Barth asked a similar question as he reflected on St. Luke's account of the crucifixion of Jesus. Luke's gospel account of the crucifixion says that Jesus was crucified between two criminal thieves. What does this mean? Barth explains. Do you know what this implies? Barth says. Don't be surprised if I tell you that this was the first Christian fellowship, the first certain delusional and indestructible Christian community. Christian community is manifest wherever there's a group of people close enough to Jesus that they are with him in such a way and they are directly and unambiguously affected by his promise and assurance. These two criminals who at this hour were crucified with him had probably never heard of him before and were certainly no believing converts, no saints. Far from it. The opposite is true. But in this hour, they could not abandon him. They could not sleep. Willingly or not, they were forced to watch him many long hours on the cross. Nor could they escape his dangerous company. They could not very well deny him being publicly exposed to it as his companions. This is how they were in fact certain Christian community. He and they and he were bound together, were not and are not to be separated in all eternity. Great things had to pass before Peter and the rest of the disciples joined this first Christian community. And when they did, they could only get in line behind these two criminals who were already first and up in front with Jesus on Golgotha. This was the energy I was feeling as a chaplain behind prison walls, and I wanted to begin a conversation about church leadership and prison ministry training programs. Can the church usher in a new pathway of being church and experiencing Christ behind prison walls? The will to survive is the core of religious imagination and narration. When we celebrate the life, death, and resurrection of Christ, we are saying that we will share in this memory and experience, no matter the cost or sacrifice. Being church behind prison walls, survival theology, prisoners, and policymakers is a new and more better belief system. I am not talking about hope. I am not talking about faith or belief systems. Belief systems, faith, and hope can lead to self-discovery, but belief, hope, and faith alone will not cut in prison life. The desire for deep change must be something more abiding, something more sustainable. This is what this podcast and this is what this book seeks to explore and offer as a practical solution to mass incarceration and social unrest in our homes, schools, and social life. Being church behind prison wall explores the theological and practical steps we need to take as the peoples of God, regardless of creed. There's only one situation, and that is the human situation. This podcast discusses ways church can be reconnected and offer the help the people of God who still want to win at life. This is a podcast about winning spiritually behind prison walls for both church and prisoners.